We're ditching the quick fixes and diving deep into what really makes men thrive. You're listening to the Man Unmedicated Podcast with Rob Kress. All right, welcome everyone to episode 1 of the Man Unmedicated Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here. My name is Robert Kress. I am the host. And the title for this first episode is going to be Men's Health in Crisis. And this is a training that I've done to other pharmacists. This is presentations that I've done at anti-aging conferences. So I'm just going to kind of dilute it down and kind of share with you where we're going, what this podcast is about, why we're doing it. So first of all, where does the name Man Unmedicated come from? For those that don't know me, I am a pharmacist. And as a pharmacist, we medicate people. And back in 2013, I wrote a book called Whole Pharmacy, Reversing the Trends of Disease in an Overmedicated Society. At that time, I absolutely felt we were in an overmedicated society. When I got into pharmacy school in 1994, I thought we were in an overmedicated society, and that engine just kept turning as the years went on. Now, what happened and what was the difference between 2013 and today? And what do I mean by man unmedicated? Now, this could be endemic of our whole society, men, women, children, you name it. And I'm not just talking about prescription drugs. What I'm actually talking about is what we do to soothe ourselves, what we do to distract ourselves, right? What are these things that we do to avoid, right? And sometimes they're an adaptation. Sometimes we need them. Sometimes they pretty much save us from the day. So yeah, it could be a prescription medication like, think about it, the family of drugs like Prozac or Zoloft. They enhance serotonin, this neurotransmitter in our system. And in doing so, serotonin is an inhibitory neurotransmitter. What does that mean? Well, it basically means it's going to inhibit the excitatory response from our environment around us. We are constantly being bombarded from stress. The way we've been designed, this primal chassis that we're on, originally, when it was designed 160,000 years ago, the stresses that we dealt with were more of life or death. Now, our nervous system has evolved a bit over the years, and we're going to have some podcasts where we dial into that. But still to the point where most stressors these days aren't life or death, but they're chronic. So our life and death ones were acute ones, right? So they'd come at us like a tiger chasing us in the desert or the Serengeti somewhere, right? So we throw our energy into that fight or flight response. But then, we either get eaten or we get out or we win the battle. Then the battle goes away. So now we go into rest and digest. We are designed to deal with stress in short-term ways, not long-term ways, not chronic ways. And that's what modern day living is, whether it's bills, whether it's news, whether it's obligations, you name it. Things are coming at us at an increasing rate, and it turns into a chronic stress response. Stress is a wonderful thing. In short bouts, it makes us stronger, but we need those bouts of rest and repair. So to deal with this, many people basically turn to what we could call medications. Medications could be actual drugs. Medications could be working out too much. Medications could be isolating oneself. Medications could be food. Medications could be overworking or working out. A whole host of things, right? So that's what this man unmedicated paradigm is. So what we want to do to share with you to go on to this and to introduce this first episode is that I want to talk about men's health in crisis, because that is what this podcast is about. I'm your host, Robert Kress, and today we're going to dive into something that affects every single one of us, the unprecedented crisis in men's health. So I want to actually start right now with a quote that's, I think, was way before its time, by Henry David Thoreau. He once said, back in the 1800s, "The mass of men lead quiet lives of desperation." When he wrote these words back in the 1800s, he couldn't have known how prophetic they would be in today's modern times. But that's what it is. A lot of men are walking through life disconnected, disenchanted, living life for others. And that's what this program is about. It's to find the meaningfulness in life, but doing so to support one's health, to bring vitality back to our relationships, to our family, to ourselves, to our health, to hopefully get off of some of those medications and just feel better and feel vital. Now, the numbers tell a devastating story. According to recent statistics, nearly half of American men, actually 44%, don't even get yearly physicals. Now, I don't know if that's the most awful thing in the world, understanding that our medical system basically would probably usher them into being medicated. So unless you were going a functional approach, which you're going to learn more about, or a lifestyle approach, but I think the take home here is the avoidance factor. And a lot of times when men, you ask them if there's anything wrong or what's wrong. No, I'm fine, right? And we need to crack into that. So at the same time and percentage, they admit that they're not taking care of their mental health either, which is a rising tide of issues going on. So we're going to think about for a moment. We're talking about millions of men slowly walking towards preventive health disasters, things that could be prevented just by opening up, just by saying, you know what, I'm raising my hand right now. I'm not okay. And I personally had friends in the last 6, 7, 8 years. A couple of them, 2 of them that have actually committed suicide of my age, right? I mean, I've had, when we deal with losses, it kind of puts a sobering aspect to life. And, oftentimes you hear that and you think, I wish I could have said something. I wish I could have done something. And that can be a hard thing. That's a big part of it. And that's what we want to bring to attention as well. So before we dive deeper into today's crisis or into modern day living's crisis, we need to understand something fundamental. Our bodies and minds were shaped by a very different world. I alluded to it a bit when I talked about the nervous system, but roughly 160,000 years ago, our ancestors lived as hunter-gatherers. Then, just 10,000 years ago, blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, we switched to agriculture, meaning we started to grow grains. We started to store foods. We were eating single foods. We were eating foods such as meat, vegetables, fruits when in season, the way we should eat, right? Spices, what was available. And then we started to raise animals too. So now when we got into that grain-based society, and that kind of shifted to a lot of the metabolic consequences that we're having right now, and just gonna a little bit right now, those metabolic consequences, the inflammation, the lipids, the diabetes, the insulin resistance, all that has a lot to do with what's going downstairs, what's going on with erectile dysfunction and all that men's stuff that we're searching online and the secrets of our own home. How can we fix that? Now, what also happened is we started to raise animals. So we didn't have to hunt wild animals. So it sure made life convenient. But then we started keeping animals that weren't being moving, that weren't exercising. So these animals, which were perfect, healthy fat ratios, right? Like polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, omega-3s they actually had in them. Now they started turning into saturated fat. And this leads to the issues of elevated cholesterol, cardiovascular disease, diabetes. All this together has been a big issue. So, and now we bring to modern day and we have these confined animal feeding operations. And in these cases, we're just fattening these animals up because we want to take them to the market and get the most money we can. We're giving them diabetes. We're pumping them with steroids and antibiotics. It's not healthy choices. So we need to take healthy decisions on the foods that we eat. That's why you're starting to see a lot more of grass-fed, wild type animals being the favor. And people are searching out getting their own food this way. So the consequences, they're staggering. The overall mortality rate for men is 41% higher than women, and men lead in about 8 out of 10 causes of death, including heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes. Our traditional roles of provide and protect, well, we've evolved with the times, leaving us stuck in these patterns that no longer serve us. So we're still here to provide and protect. Right? But we have this evolutionary process of what I deem the 7 peaks of transformative wellness, which you will learn more about as well. So let's talk about mental health. I think it's really important to touch upon this, especially on this first episode, because this is where the crisis becomes particularly acute and loud. Recent data shows that while in almost 1 in 10 men experience depression or anxiety, less than half will ever seek treatment. I alluded to some of my friends that this happened with. Even more alarming, men die by suicide at a rate nearly 4 times higher than women, making up almost 80% of all suicides, despite being only 50% of the population. We're also facing a crisis of connection. The average man spends about 5.5 hours daily in front of screens, replacing real human action with digital distraction. And we're going to talk about relationships as well. Kay Corpus, my partner, and I, we've talked about this, and where she runs a women's practice, I run the men's practice. It's evident to see that sometimes men and women could say, it's easier if I go it alone. But it's not the same. We're more connected than ever, yet increasingly disconnected, and it has a devastating role on our health internally and externally. But here's the thing. This isn't just about the statistics. It's about you, me, our fathers, our brothers, our sons. It's about the quiet struggles we face every day. The pressure to maintain the stoic provider role while our inner worlds crumble. The shame of asking for help, the fear of appearing weak, the guilt of these stories that we lay upon ourselves that often aren't true. Today's episode is just the beginning. We're going to start with the physical because that's our foundation. I like to say, let's build you up stronger so you're ready to take this journey into the 7 peaks. Make no mistake, though, this journey goes far beyond the body and our physical health. We're talking about ascending from the basic provide and protect mindset to something greater: identity, purpose, connection, legacy. Now, what's particularly concerning is that about 87% of men worry about their current health habits, how it will affect their future, although many of them feel powerless to change. And this falls in line with what I hear in my practice. This stops now. This is what this podcast is about. We're going to break this cycle together. This isn't just another health podcast. This is a call to arms, a revolution in how we think about men's health, about how we think about our well-being. We're going to challenge the old narratives, break down the barriers that keep us sick and silent, and build something new, something better. In the coming episodes, we'll explore practical strategies for reclaiming your health, rebuilding your strength, reconnecting with purpose. We're going to talk about everything from nutrition to exercise to mental resilience, relationships, entrepreneurship, and spiritual growth. No topic is off limits. No challenge is too great to take. Remember, we didn't evolve to live like this, but we can evolve beyond this crisis. This journey starts now, and I'm glad you're here for it. This is Man Unmedicated, and we're just starting to get started. Stay with us. Can't wait to see you on the next episode. Thanks for joining us on the Man Unmedicated Podcast. If you're ready to take control of your health and join a community of men who are doing the same, head over to www.manunmedicated.com. And remember, true wellness isn't found in a pill bottle. It's built through real transformation. Until next time, keep pushing your peaks.